This is Matt Schlapp, and welcome back to another great episode of CPAC Live. As you all know, there's lots of ways to watch the show. The best way is just to go to our website at conservative.org. But you can also use your social media platform of choice, especially Twitter and Facebook. And I have started an Instagram account. My young daughters have convinced me that this is the thing to do. So I'm probably a little halting with my initial Instagram posts. One person said that they thought one of my posts was creepy. So I promise to get better at doing this. So I'm really honored to be joined by somebody I consider an American hero, mostly because she's just a dang good American. Shelley Luther, who owns Salon a la Mode in Dallas, Texas, is with us. And Shelley, you've become a cult hero for just using your common sense and wanting to provide for your family. We've seen you all over television, all over Fox News. Give us the status of your salon.
The salon is open. It's running. I had to hire kind of a manager that I'd never had before to kind of run things, just because it's way busier than it was before, which is good. So I'm happy with my hairstylist.
If you weren't so far away, I would go to your salon too. I feel like I want to help all of these small business people that are standing up against really regulations and shutdown orders that breach any form of common sense.
Right. Well, we have people flying in from all over the United States just to prove that they support us. But if you're in a shutdown state, go to one of the shops that's open, quote unquote, illegally. That would be the best help.
You know, Shelley, we're going to have you come to our big event, our CPAC event. You're going to have to be doing haircuts in our hub. I think I can see it right now.
Let me just tell you, you don't want me cutting hair. I'm not a hairstylist.
You're not. You're just the business person.
That's right.
Oh, that's great. Well, you can bring your hairstylist, and you can just sign.
I will.
You'll sign your new book, which you would have written by then.
Oh gosh, don't even.
So let me ask you. You know, as we're all struggling with common sense things we can do. For instance, when you opened up your shop, it's not like you did it irresponsibly. You took very careful precautions to minimize any exposure to this virus. Isn't there a way where we can like walk and chew gum, be safe, be careful, be responsible, and still go to work and still open up America?
I mean, last time I checked, we were adults and we were trusted to get in a car, drive places, make our own hotel reservations and things like this. I'm pretty sure we can follow guidelines if they would actually put some out. Right now, they're just being silent, saying don't open. They're not even giving people guidelines in advance so they can be prepared when they do open.
Do you have you been the subject of attacks? Is there a significant are there significant voices in Texas that are trying to make you be responsible for people getting sick?
I mean, I would say every voice is significant. I don't want to say one person is better than the other, but a lot of the attack I'm getting is just people misinformed or kind of ignorant to the situation or just plain mean. So I just kind of, I really don't pay much attention to it unless it's something that can help me with the business and help people get open.
So do you think you've got momentum? I'm worried that a lot of small businesses are going to have trouble building up that momentum as things begin to open up because people have been told they should be scared and should shutter themselves, and by going out makes them unsafe. You've got momentum because of your bravery. Do you think you can keep that momentum? And do you think the other small businesses around you, the restaurants, the small shops, is there hope for them?
Oh, absolutely. I think the best momentum would be if we just everybody decide to just open up. What are they going to do? They can't do anything. If we all opened right now, everybody just open. Are they really going to go and arrest every single business owner and cite every business owner? I don't think so. And even if they do cite us, that's an unlawful cite because it's not even a law that you're breaking.
So you shared with me that you are a proud former high school teacher.
I am.
For a long time too, right? Not just a season.
No, I taught school for about 13 years, high school Spanish, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Mercy, my wife, Mercy, should be doing this interview. You guys can be going back and forth in different languages. But my question to you is, I don't know how many years ago that was, but it seems like for many of these public school administrators and too many private school administrators, quite frankly, there is a real fear for the schools to open up. And it seems like as the schools say they won't open up, that has a real effect on government's decisions about what they do with other institutions or businesses. Why is that? Why are these school administrators so scared to open up when kids are probably the safest demographic in light of with this virus?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily, and I haven't spoken to any administrators, but to me, they're government funded, so they want to just do whatever the government says to maintain finances. I would think would be common sense, but to me, it's going to be ridiculous to not let kids go to school because that means people can't go to work. They have to teach their kids at home. So I think that's just another play to try to keep businesses closed. If we keep the kids home, then parents aren't able to work.
To me, it seems also that if you're a government official, and I've been a government official, in full disclosure, my wife has been a government official, but if you're a government official and you're getting 100% of your pay, whether you go to work, whether you don't go to work, that's creating a perverse incentive almost to keep the shutdown longer. It seems like our government officials, like Nancy Pelosi and others who are saying it's not safe to go to work, how are they drawing full salaries? Shouldn't they also have to take a responsible step and say, you know what, I'm going to contribute my salary, especially if I'm a wealthy person like she is, to victims and people who are going out of business because of their shutdown?
Well, I was on another Fox interview the other day, and they said that Maxine Waters said something that all of us protesting to open should be ashamed of ourselves. And she asked me if I was ashamed, and I'm like, no, she should be ashamed of herself for taking a full paycheck and telling everybody else to stay home with no government assistance. And that's the same thing that's happening locally in Dallas. The same gentleman, Clay Jenkins, is telling everybody they can't go out, but he furloughs 500 employees because he can't afford to pay them because there's no business taxes coming in. But of course, he drives a Tesla and he still is giving his full paycheck.
Yeah, no, this is, I think it's a real nasty dynamic. If all these government workers are getting their full compensation, they don't understand, they can't connect to other Americans in the private economy who can't go back to work because they've told them they can't. And the smaller you are, the more likely they told you can't operate. It really probably should be the opposite. Mm-hmm. And your question about kids, your point about kids is well taken. And we have 5. If our terrible governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia actually ever allows us to go back to work, because he keeps forestalling it, he keeps pushing it off. What does my wife do if the kids' schools are all closed? So essentially, this will fall mostly on women, but not just, mostly on mothers, but not just mothers. It's also fathers and families. This is going to mean essentially they can't go back to work. So it all has to kind of work together.
It's all political. All of it is political, and it's a joke because you're right. It's proven that kids are not very susceptible. I mean, it's like the recovery rate for kids is huge, if not asymptomatic. We don't even know. And I understand that some kids might have some autoimmune deficiencies or something like that, and we need to be careful with those kids. But the kids that are healthy, they need to go to school. And all of this is just a political ploy to make sure businesses stay closed. And I just don't understand that.
Do you think it's aimed at the president, or it's just kind of a blue state, liberal socialist mentality that it's the government's job to keep us 100% safe every moment of the day?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly, but it comes from above with all of the Democrat leaders just insulting the president all the time and just contradicting anything he says. If he says black, they want white. And so I think that the leadership is to blame in this because people, if they're a Democrat, they want to follow their leaders and think that they're right. And I think it needs to start higher up with some of those Democrats taking some responsibility for their decisions.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. Now, on your media appearances, are you getting them from all over the world?
Yeah. Well, not the world. Well, no, that's true because I did BBC the other night. So yes.
That's great. That's awesome. And do you find that you're a more credible voice than most of these politicians?
I don't know if they think I'm credible or not. They're still thinking that I'm some actress hired by the Republicans and I'm going to like lead some Tea Party action or something. But
take it as a compliment, Shelley, okay?
Is it? I don't know yet. I wasn't really super political before this. I watched the news and was informed, but I wasn't really an active person. So for them to say that is pretty comical to me. But out of all of this, I was able to create a charitable foundation with all of the money that I raised while in jail. So I'm excited to give back. And it's called Courage to Stand, couragetostand.com. And if anybody wants to know about that, we're going to use that money. We're on our way to Michigan right now to help the barber in Owasso, and we're going to stand with him.
That's awesome. We'd like to stand there with you. That's great. Give the website one more time, Shelley.
couragetostand.com.
Awesome. Well, we know that our CPAC community wants to be helpful to you as you go forward. And we have one final question from David Perez, who's from Frederick, Maryland. Let's listen to David.
Good afternoon. I'd first like to thank Mr. Schlapp and everybody over at the ACU for hosting these CPAC Live events. My question today is for Ms. Luther. How do you feel knowing that you started a movement to defy unreasonable and punitive shutdowns across the country? I'd also like to know, what would you tell other businesses that must stay open to feed their families? As a combat veteran, I would like to personally thank you for standing up for our freedoms and being a shining light in this time of darkness.
Wow, that's deep, because my dad was a Marine. He retired a Master Gunny Sergeant in the Marine Corps. So I think that's where I get a lot of this fight in me. Our family had to live without him for most of our young lives. And so when people want to trash the flag or do anything that's un-American or take advantage of all of the freedom that they have, it kind of fires me up. So what I would say is, be an American, open your business. It is an unlawful ordinance. It is not a law. And if we all stick together, all of us as Americans, it doesn't matter, red, blue, whatever, if we all stick together, then we will overcome this. But if we bow down in fear, then they are going to conquer this, and we cannot let that happen.
I can't agree with you more. I think also we could make ourselves sick by trying to be too cautious and try to stay safe. And so there's that dynamic as well, which we're going to talk about next week on the show. Shelley Luther, you are an American hero. We're wonderful. It's a wonderful privilege to work alongside you as the country faces these questions. Thanks for being with us at CPAC Live. Now, next, it's not just Shelley Luther who is speaking up and saying she has a right to provide for her family and open her business. The green energy guru, Elon Musk, California, is saying the same thing. Listen to this video.
It appears Elon Musk may be interested in changing the location of Tesla's headquarters. It started when Alameda County, California refused to let Musk reopen his factory due to the ongoing coronavirus restrictions. Musk tweeted, quote, "Frankly, this is the final straw. Tesla will now move its headquarters and future programs to Texas, Nevada." Senator Ted Cruz responded in part, quote, "Come to Texas. We love jobs and Texans very much." Katie Johnston for CBS 11 News.
So Elon Musk, hey, he's actually saying something I agree with for once. And it's a refreshing voice when you see voices from the left and the right, especially people in business, saying actually businesses can't stay in business if they don't have customers and if they can't make their product. Pretty basic common sense. Now, we are really, you know who our next guest is. She's one of the people that you watch on TV and you read all the time. You can read about her latest takes on SaraCarter.com. Sara Carter, you have started a new foundation. Tell us about the foundation.
Well, very excited. It's the Dark Wire and Investigation Foundation. We actually started several years ago with our documentary that we launched, which was Not in Vain. That's VEIN, and it dealt with the opioid crisis. Anybody can see the video. It's a nonprofit documentary, and it's actually on the web. So if you go to Not in Vain USA, that's VEIN.com, you can see the documentary there. I thought it was really important to start a foundation, especially now, Matt, with mainstream media being so far to the left, it seems, and so divisive, that a place where young journalists, and this is really our goal for the foundation, where young journalists can be trained, where they can work on big projects that deal with human trafficking, with opioid addiction, with other issues, whether those are conservative issues or middle of the road issues where they can get the truth out to the American people and have some guidance and some training. And we're also looking at expanding this throughout Central America. We've seen a large influence of socialism, and communism in those parts of the world. And we really want to get out why it's so important for liberty and freedom to have a free press and to have people that are out there documenting the truth and telling the truth. So that's our goal.
Okay, so we're going to start this off. We're going to get right into this question about the deep state, the travesty that was perpetrated on Mike Flynn, the coup against the president, with a question from one of our wonderful CPAC volunteers, Kate Collins from Maryland. Here's Kate's question.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for your service to the American people. Many Americans are frustrated by the sense of injustice we see playing out daily before our eyes. Does the Democrat Party and the media in general wield so much power that no one will ever face repercussions for the attempted coup, the weaponizing of our intelligence agencies, and the unmasking of General Flynn?
I have faith in our system of justice, and I have faith in our country. And I know sometimes it can feel like we're never going to come to any resolution, especially with the case of the Russia hoax, what we saw happen with the Obama administration and those senior officials, and what they did to our country, basically weaponized the agencies that we trusted against their own presidency, against this administration, a duly elected president of the United States, Donald Trump. And the more and more we know about what happened, and especially when you look at Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, I've known him since he was the J2 at the Pentagon. He was head of intelligence at the Pentagon when I first started as a reporter here in Washington, D.C. And I remember meeting this man who was, so vivacious, willing to always stand up for the truth, never played the narrative. He never believed in just telling people what they wanted to hear. He always told the truth. And that was the big problem between Lieutenant General Michael Flynn and President Obama.
And what did President Obama do to General Flynn?
Look, he fired him from the Defense Intelligence Agency. He was head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. At that time, President Obama had this narrative. He didn't want to hear the truth. A ton of people in the intelligence community that I spoke with were sending messages to the CIA, trying to get it to the president saying, look, Al-Qaeda is not on the run. There's this new group called Islamic State, ISIS, that is building up in Syria, and we're really concerned about it. And Obama did not want that to be the message. He wanted to win the next election.
And Flynn also, Sarah, is it true that Flynn literally would go and brief the president and use terms like radical Islamic terror, which really peeved President Obama?
Yes, he did. And he wasn't willing to back down from that. And I want to tell you something about Flynn. He was a Democrat. He was appointed by President Obama.
I know this to be true. You're right.
And he actually really had a good relationship with him in the beginning. But one of the things that Flynn had told me and during an interview, and I had known him for a long time, he's like, look, I wasn't willing to lie. My job was to deliver the facts to the administration, whether they liked those facts or not. And unfortunately, President Obama did not like the facts that I was delivering. I never once believed that Michael Flynn was a traitor to this country. I never once believed that President Trump or the campaign was conspiring with Russia. And I'll tell you why. Because never did any one of them, and I've interviewed John Brennan, I've talked to these folks. I interviewed John Brennan at CIA headquarters, December 2016. Never once did Brennan, Clapper, or any of them give any concrete evidence to the American people that there was anything going on.
That's right.
You have to question even authority when they're making accusations that the duly elected president of the United States is a Manchurian candidate, is working with the Russians. You can't just accept it at face value. You go back to the question, do I believe there will ever be justice? Yes, I do. I don't believe that my husband fought in wars. I don't believe that we fight for this country and for the freedoms and liberty that this country gives us, that we're a beacon of light for the rest of the world. Without us, there is no place like America. There's no place to go.
Dark place without America. Now let me ask you this. So Obama fires General Flynn, and shortly thereafter, with all the documents that have been dumped, which is really not the right word. It's transparency. They've been given to the American people who own it and pay for it. Obama essentially then eventually started this whole kind of spying operation with his intelligence chiefs against Flynn. They had a vendetta against Flynn, and they sure made it. They sure made it real.
Yeah, they did, Matt. And I love the way you put that, because it's so important for people to understand. Flynn wasn't just about, it wasn't just about the Trump administration. It wasn't just about targeting Trump, although that was the bigger part for them, the insurance policy. And I do believe when Sidney Powell says Flynn was the insurance policy, I believe she's pretty much right on the money. The thing with Flynn was that there had already been animus between General Flynn, he was the head of the DIA, and the CIA. And there were so many people, and I interviewed some of them, that did not want Lieutenant General Michael Flynn at the White House. They knew that he knew where all the bodies were buried, I like to say. He understood the system. He was the one person in the administration that understood how things operated and where to look for the information. And he could bring it.
He was the one guy who knew enough where he could stop some of the crap that had been going on ever since these entities, certainly the CIA, their cultures had been established.
Right, and it was abusive culture.
They needed him to be defanged. And so what does Obama tell Trump in that famous meeting in the Oval Office when Donald Trump has secured the presidency? What's one of the things Obama tells Trump?
He plants a seed in President Trump's head. And this is why he was just so good at this. He plants a seed in his head and he says, don't let anybody tell you what to do. Put all the people you want in positions of power. This is about your presidency. But I have to warn you. I have to warn you about one person. And that's Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. You can't trust him. Do not put him in office. Do not bring him on board with the administration. Right. He warns him. And he does that on purpose because he plants a seed in his head because he already knows. He already knows about the investigation, about the phone calls, and what's going to happen. And I believe that Obama himself knew that Trump would put Flynn in. See, because he was targeting all of them. He just wanted to put that seed of doubt in President Trump's head. Because remember, on January 4th, the FBI wants to end the investigation on Flynn because they find no derogatory information on him whatsoever or on anyone that Flynn is connected with. On January 5th, they have the famous meeting at the White House with President Trump, with Susan Rice, Sally Yates, all of the big players, Vice President Joe Biden. And then they keep basically Peter Strzok then keeps the investigation open on Flynn. They don't allow it to shut. They don't shut it down. Then they go in on January 24th and they interview him at the White House. They trick him basically because Flynn's just thinking they're coming over to talk. He's not.
He thought it was part of his job as the national security advisor.
Right. Yeah. Right. They come in and they set him up. But I think what people forget is that all the stories that leaked after that, remember, we have the stories that came, David Ignatius with the Washington Post about.
Yeah, let me go there. Let me do that real fast. Okay, so what people have to understand is the day Joe Biden asked for the unmasking of General Flynn, miraculously, the Washington Post, through David Ignatius's pen, has the full readout of General Flynn's conversations, and his name is mentioned. That is classified information. I don't know for sure that Joe Biden did it. You don't know for sure that Joe Biden did. But with the 12, 17, 15 people in the Obama administration that also asked for that same information, it would be impossible not to come to the conclusion that one of these, Obama or one of his people on his behalf or on their own behalf, were trying to have a kill shot on General Flynn through the Washington Post, which is illegal. And that is exactly what they went after Scooter Libby for doing, even though they claimed it falsely.
You're 100% right, Matt. You're 100% right. All you have to do is look at what happened. And also the fact that David Ignatius himself says in the column that this was verified by senior administration officials.
Which is an illegal activity to verify.
Right. It is, because this is the most classified piece of material in U.S. possession. Believe it or not, it's up there with the top most classified pieces of documentation. Because what you're saying is you're listening in on a targeted call, which was basically then Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, and you're picking up the full conversation, and then you're unmasking the American on the other side. Not only did they tip off the Russians that we had access to that particular phone that Ambassador Sergei Kislyak was using, because at that point, Russians.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Right. But they're also saying, look, we're weaponizing the information that we get, because what is the most valuable thing on the planet? It's information.
That's right.
And what that told me, Matt, was that Michael Flynn isn't the only one they were listening into. I want you to think about this. The documents that came out on Flynn that showed that the 16 senior Obama officials that unmasked him, that was about 48, I think, unmaskings of Michael Flynn in those documents, right?
Yeah, I've got the list right here. It's almost 50. That's exactly right.
Right. So during that time frame, it increased threefold. They weren't just unmasking Michael Flynn. That's only what we know, because David Ignatius leaked that in the paper, and now we have these documents.
And look, Sarah, the other thing is, you go back to the previous Republican administration, the George W. Bush administration. When Clapper goes on CNN and says, oh, these unmaskings happened regularly, it is true that people at a lower level, for instance, at the CIA or an intelligence agency, would of course know both parties in a phone conversation, but the American has rights. And it is irregular for those names to be pushed up to the political offices, for instance, the president, the vice president, those serving in a White House. It has to reach a very high legal bar for that individual American's name to be disclosed. General Flynn was stripped of those rights as an American citizen. So the question is, who was so good as to get these, you said it was how many, 15 people in the Obama administration to all ask for the unmaskings around the same time? Isn't the culprit there John Brennan?
Right. I mean, all you have to do is think about this. I have a friend, many friends actually, that I've worked with in stories that worked in the intelligence community. One that retired after 30 years and, cloak and dagger CIA stuff, right? I asked them, how many times did you unmask an American? Because these are people that legitimately can investigate, right? They're not, Joe Biden is not an investigator. He doesn't have any reason to have an unmasking. Samantha Power, she shouldn't be unmasking people.
No, that's ridiculous.
Susan Rice, they're not investigators. They're not working as target analysts at the CIA. They're not doing any of this.
Joe Biden doesn't need to ask for an unmasking unless he's going to do something political.
Right, exactly.
So let me ask you,
only 3 times in that person's career. 3 times. Another person told me only once. So you think about how many times the Obama administration unmasked Americans, and it's insane. Sarah, triple-fold.
As we come to the end of this segment, which has been, enriched by the fact that you took time to come talk to our CPAC community, we want to have you back on. But I want to really just get a yes or no answer. I have what I think the answer is. I want to hear from you. Between Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Yates and Strzok and Page and McCabe and Baker and there's 20 more I could go through. Will there be any indictments in your opinion? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
God, from your mouth to God's ears. Sara Carter, thanks for joining us on CPAC Live. And as you all know, we'll be with you back Monday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we look forward to being with you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, CPAC.
Thank you, Sarah.